At the level of the essence of the soul, nothing's missing. At the level of the existence of the senses, things appear to be missing. For millennia, people have asked, what exactly is the soul? Is there a soul? One of the great textbooks that are ever written, like if you could call it a textbook, a great treatise by Aristotle on Deamina, what is the soul? If you've never browsed that piece of work, you find that he had taken all the pre-Socratic philosophers and had studied what the essence of our existence was, the soul. For the practical purposes of our daily life, I'm going to describe the soul as the state of unconditional love. S-O-U-L. It's a state of authenticity, the state of our true identity. Now, people have debated whether there's some sort of immortal soul or whether we're just a physical body and a brain, etc. And this has been debated and going on. Is there dualism? Is there a monism? But for our practical purposes today, I'm going to describe the soul as the state of unconditional love. So if you have something to write with and write on, let's delve into this topic a bit. Most of the time, we're sitting in a world of judgment. Now, it was the great pre-Socratic philosopher Empedocles, who is the founder of the cosmogonic cycle of the descent and ascent of the soul into our physical existence, and the four elements, fire, air, water, and earth. And he described that there was nothing but love or strife in our existence. When we're in strife, the elements are separated. When we're in love, the elements are integrated. Well, there's actually some wisdom to this, even though we may use different language today. When we have love, we're integrated. When we have strife, we're disintegrated. Let me give you an example. Let's say you walk down the street and you meet somebody that you think is more intelligent than you, more achieving than you in business possibly, more wealthy than you, more stable in relationship than you, more socially influential than you, more physically fit than you, or more spiritually aware than you. Anytime you look up to them and relative to them by the law of contrast, minimize yourself. You devalue yourself or minimize yourself relative to somebody you've exaggerated. Now, if you get to know that individual, you may not actually have that as a second opinion, but that may be your first opinion. So anytime you exaggerate somebody and minimize yourself, you're not being yourself. You're inauthentic. And you're judging yourself and judging them. So you're having strife. And you're too humble to admit what you see in them inside you, so you have a disowned part. And that disowned part, that dismembered part, that deflected part, that emptiness or void inside you fractures you and fragments you and disintegrates you. If you go down and walk around and you see somebody that you think is less intelligent than you, less achieving than you, less wealthy than you, less stable in relationship you, less influential than you, less physically fit than you, less spiritually aware than you, and minimize them through judgment, and then exaggerate yourself and puff yourself up. Again, you're now too proud to admit what you see in them inside you, and you have a disowned part and a dismembered and deflected part, and you feel void, emptiness. That's why anytime you judge somebody above or below you, exaggerate them, minimize you, or minimize them and exaggerate you, the moment you do that, you have a disowned part, you feel empty, you feel void, you feel fractured, and you exaggerate or minimize yourself instead of being yourself. Whenever you're not yourself and you exaggerate, minimize, you have an inauthenticity. And you have a judgment on yourself. You're proud, judging yourself superior, superiority complex, or shamed, inferiority complex. And you exaggerate or minimize yourself. Whenever you exaggerate or minimize yourself, Aristotle in his time said there was the golden mean, the true virtue, and then there were the vices of excess and deficiency. So when we perceive an excess or deficiency of ourself, pride or shame, exaggeration, minimization, we have the vices. When we actually have reflective awareness and don't put people on pedestals or pits and don't minimize ourselves or exaggerate ourselves, but just have a reflective awareness and own what we see in them. When you point the finger at them, you got three back at you. When you own it and have reflective awareness and love that individual as a reflection of yourself and love yourself, but not go into pride or shame or exaggeration or minimizations, and just be present with yourself, you have a moment of authenticity and a state of unconditional love. And that authentic self is the soul. The soul is your immortal self, if you will. The immortal self, because when you're in the soul, you maximize your influence in your mind. You have noise that's dissolved. See, every time you exaggerate and minimize somebody and judge somebody, you got noise in the brain, static in the brain. The noise to signal ratio, a lot more noise than signal. The signal is the wisdom of the soul. The noise is all the judgments that block it. See, when you infatuate with somebody and inject their values, you cloud the clarity of your own highest value. When you judge somebody looking down on them, you also do it because you're fragmented, you're disintegrated, you're exaggerating, minimizing yourself. You're not being yourself. The moment you do, you end up fracturing yourself. In the ancient Greek philosophy, that was called heterogeneity. When you bring yourself back into balance, you have homogeneity. And there's one versus many, fractured. And there's a law where the law of similars and differences come into balance. So the moment we actually have a pure reflective awareness and we're authentic and we have an unconditional love for a moment and we're not trying to change them relative to us from superiority, or change us relative to them with inferiority. Anytime you try to get others to live in your values, you end up having futility. Anytime you try to get yourself to live in other people's values, you have futility. But the moment you unconditionally love somebody and have equanimity and pure reflective awareness, there's no desire to change them relative to you or you relative to them. There's nothing to change. And now your will, your intentions matching what is, which was called in the ancient theology divine will. Human will match divine will. And you have grace, and you have inspiration, and you have revelation, and you have awareness, and you have the soul, the state of unconditional love. And because of that, you maximize your brain function. You maximize your business. See, if you go narcissistic and don't listen to your customers or employees, they'll create unions and then they'll have rejections and your business will get humbled and you'll bring yourself back down. All the symptoms in business are trying to get you back to authenticity again. And if you minimize yourself and sacrifice, you'll have anarchy in your business and you'll end up sacrificing your profits. So minimization will make you, darn it, I deserve better than that. You'll lift yourself up. The moment you have equanimity and equity between yourself and others and bring those into balance and have the soul, the authenticity, all symptoms in our life, physiologically, psychologically, sociologically, theologically, and in our business are bringing us awareness, trying to give us feedback to let us know when we're not authentic, not in the soul. So in that moment we maximize our empowerment in each of the 7 areas of life. We maximize our lasting endurance in those areas because we have fair exchange with people and they want to continue to do business with. So we have lasting effects. In fact, when we live in our highest value and we're most objective and most balanced, because objectivity means balance and neutral and whole, we own both sides. We don't disown parts. We're full. The Gnostics called that pleroma. When we are empty and we judge and we have emptiness and missingness, we have kenoma. The moment we end up having pleroma and fulfillment, we have fulfillment. We have the soul. We have authenticity. And when we live by our highest values, our space and time horizons grow. Eventually we have goals that go beyond our life because we tend to walk our talk. We tend to wake up our natural born leader. We tend to have greater influence. And anybody that exemplifies authenticity is magnetizing charismatically other people who want to help in the pursuit of whatever that mission of that individual is. So living authentically, according to the soul, the state of unconditional love, the moment of love, maximizes our potential in life. Are we going to live there every day, all day long? No. Is there somebody that's done that? No. Even though that likes to market, people are sold by the opium of the fantasy of that. We are growing every day. We're learning, we judge, we transcend that, we integrate, we go on to the next thing. We have moments of unconditional love. We have moments of authenticity. But what's interesting is inside our psyche, whenever we exaggerate ourselves by the licensing effect, we also minimize ourselves. But we're only conscious of one and unconscious of the other. they're actually integrated at the time. So even though we don't know in our outer experience, in our existential experience, we don't know that we're having a balance, there is still a balance going on. There still is an equanimity. Therefore, the immortal soul. And the impact we have by being authentic lasts. So we have an immortality quotient. We have ideas that last beyond our life. We have businesses that live beyond our life. We have wealth that lives beyond our life. We have loved ones that live beyond our life. We have influence in society that lives beyond our life. We have our physical body and the impact it has had on the earth that lives beyond our life. And we also have, in a sense, our spiritual quest, which is the pursuit of that. And even though that may be an anxiety that drives that for the fear of death, in the reality, we have the capacity to leave an effect on this planet. When we live authentically, we have the most immortal effect. So our path of the soul's immortality is the audacity and the courage to be ourselves. We can walk on fire and we can do bungee jumps and we can do all kind of little metaphors for having courage. But the courage is the willingness to walk in the path of the heart. Courage comes from the root, core, which means heart. And the ability to do that is more powerful than doing bungee jumps or walking on fire. That's a metaphor. But what's really powerful is having the courage to be yourself. The courage to take whatever you perceive out there and own it and have reflective awareness. The courage to have true intimacy and love, which means you have no disowned parts. Whatever you see in the world out there, you own, so you're a reflection. You have a pure reflection awareness. In that, you have full consciousness. You're mindful. You have satori. You have moksha. You have liberation. You have rejuvenation. Whatever you want to give it the name over the years. This is the soul, the state of unconditional love. The ancient Greeks wanted to know, is it some sort of a thing that is mortal or immortal? It's both. In its immortal aspect, we have an unconditional love. In its mortal aspect, we're judging, but in the same time we're judging, we have the licensing effect of pairs of opposites, like an entanglement in quantum physics. Is it heterogeneous or homogeneous? It's homogeneous. We're in a state of unconditional love. It's heterogeneous when we're judging. Is it something that is empowered, or is it disempowered? If we're in love, we have empowerment. If we're disempowered, we're judging. This is what Empedocles was saying. Pythagoras said that the seed of all the existence is our soul. And that's where our power is. In fact, our greatest power is when we're authentic. The magnificence of who we authentically are is the most powerful state we can be in. So giving ourselves permission to be there and to live there and to function there is what I'm about. You know, I've been teaching a breakthrough experience program, which is my signature program I've done 1,196 times. And I teach people how to access the soul. I teach people with my Demartini method how to ask questions that dissolve the judgments that bondage us, because anything we infatuate or resent occupies space in time and mind and causes the chaos, the heterogeneity. The second we ask questions that balance our mind and liberate us from those judgments and get back to the soul, we have our power. So I teach people how to repower themselves, how to live authentically, how to prioritize their life, how to give other people the opportunity to do the same by delegating lower priority things, and to find people that would love to do that so they can live inspired by their path, and to go and empower your life in all areas of your life. I teach people the science of that, and it's very inspiring to watch them wake up their soul, their state of unconditional love, their authentic self, their place where they're actually seeing the hidden order in their apparent chaos, and they're in a state of grace. And they're realizing there's nothing to change in others relative to them or them relative to others. There's something to be grateful for in life. Gratitude is the key that opens up the gateway of the heart. And in the heart is love. And when we have an unconditional love in the moment of the heart, we have an authentic state. We're inspired. Our body becomes entheos, the divine within. And we end up having a certainty instead of uncertainty. So we have presence instead of living in futures and past and wobbling with uncertainties and vicissitudes of emotion. We actually have an integration of all the parts. And I think this is what was stated even at the time of Pythagoras and the pre-Socratics and Aristotle when they were talking about the soul, and Plato. They were describing the integration of those parts. Empedocles said when you have fire and air, you exaggerate yourself. When you have water and earth, you minimize yourself. If you integrate yourself, you have a perfect blend, and you have the ether. And ether was the fifth element called love. So a state of unconditional love was basically the essence of our existence and the power of our life. And that's why I call it the alchemy of the mind. It's the integration of all the parts inside ourselves and owning and realize nothing's missing. When we have nothing missing, we have fulfillment in life. At the level of the essence of the soul, nothing's missing. At the level of the existence of the senses, things appear to be missing. The only things that appear to be missing are the things you're too proud or too humble to admit that you see in others, but you don't see inside yourself. As Schopenhauer was supposedly stated, we become our true self to the degree that we make everything else ourself. Who's to say where the boundary of human beings are? As Stephen Wolfram says, that the entropy in physics is nothing but the boundedness of our own computation and awareness. If we are fully aware and realize that everything micro and macro, subatomic and astronomic, is really an aspect of ourselves, then we have fulfillment and realize that we're all the above. There's no separation. As Schrodinger said in his book on one mind, he said that there may just be one mind, and all of us are participating in one giant, magnificent mind. And we individualize ourselves while we're going to the heterogeneous aspect of judgment. But in a moment of unconditional love, there's no separation. We've extracted space and time out from the mind and gotten present. Anyway, I just want to take a few moments to go over the soul, the state of unconditional love, the place where you're most authentic, and just have a dabble in that topic and let your brain get fried a little bit on that topic. But just know that anytime you actually see another individual and you look inside yourself and you realize that what you see in them is you, and then you end up loving them and loving you, and you realize there's nothing to fix or change, and you see the hidden order in your life, you're now expressing the soul. The namaste of the Indian mystics, the divine in me honors the divine in you. And that's probably the atma of that's where we have the greatest atmospheric awareness, the overview effect, where we realize it's neither positive nor negative, it's neither good nor evil, it's beyond judgment, it's beyond the pairs of opposites. In that state is we have the soul. The moment we go down in there, we have the agent of the soul, as Meister Eckhart said, the agent of the soul, which is the mind, which senses things and motors things, receives and broadcasts and assumes there's separation between self and other, and division and heterogeneity. And that's when we judge. So our judgments let us know what we haven't loved and give us another opportunity to awaken the new questions in our mind to become fully aware so we can transcend the judgment and return to love. Marianne Williams talked about in her book many years ago, returning to love. And I think that's the essence of our existence. That's why I created the Demartini method, and I teach it in the Breakthrough Experience, to give people the science, a reproducible, duplicatable science on how to do that. So they can walk a path of authenticity and give themselves permission to shine, not shrink. In quantum physics, if we take light and divide it up into particles and nanoparticles, the particles and nanoparticles are like our judgments. And when we integrate them and reunion them to put them into light, we have enlightenment. And that's a great metaphor for our own behaviors. It's the alchemy of the mind. And it's designed to make us enlightened. Enlightened is full awareness. And we're not asleep. We're not unconscious. We're fully conscious. When we're infatuated with somebody, we're conscious of the upsides, unconscious of the downside. We resent somebody, we're conscious of the downsides, unconscious of the upsides. When we love somebody, we're fully conscious of both sides within them and ourselves simultaneously. Wilhelm Wundt says that the synchronicity and the simultaneity of all complementary opposites was love. And that's the essence of our existence. That's the soul. So that's why I want people to come to the Breakthrough Experience, because I can teach them the science, how to awaken the soul, and how to have love for their life, themselves and others. And I don't know, at the end of your days, and I've asked millions of people, if you had only 24 hours to live, what would you do with your life? And they said, if I had only 24 hours to live, I'd go to the people who've contributed to my life, and I'd say, I love you and thank you. Well, we don't know when our last 24 hours is, so it's wise to just go ahead and find out who that is and say, thank you, I love you. Grace and love is what this whole thing's about. Our authentic self comes from that state. And that's why I teach the Breakthrough Experience and the Demartini method, to help people have a science to reproduce that no matter what's going on in their life. There's nothing your mortal body can experience that your mortal soul can't love. There's nothing that you can experience that you've judged that can't be transcended and appreciated and loved. The quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. If you ask questions that liberate yourself from the judgments and wake yourself up to see both sides simultaneously, you can love it. And anything you don't love is going to run your life until you do. And anything you don't love is going to create entropy and aging to let you know you're not loving, to catalyze you to look again and wake up that part of you that knows. Gnosis, knowledge, true knowledge is really love. When you're infatuated or resentful, you don't know the person. You're missing and you're unconscious of parts. But when you actually love and have reflective awareness, authenticity, you get to have the immortal state. That's the one that's not entropically aging. The negentropic Schrodinger love equation in his book, What is Life? So I just want to take a few moments to talk about that and encourage you to come to the breakthrough experience so I can help you with my science awaken that state where you're actually empowered in life instead of disempowered. Because anything you don't own in the world around you, within you, disempowers you. So come to the breakthrough experience and let me help you by showing you this science. That science you'll use the rest of your life. I guarantee it'll be useful the rest of your life. It's a tool that'll last. It has 1,000 applications. It'll change your life if you use it. So come to the breakthrough experience. Let me teach you the Demartini method. I've been working 51 years on the development of this to help people master their lives and maximize their potential in life. As Aristotle said, there's actuality. And as Maslow said, self-actualized, and there's potentiality. And when we get to maximum potential, we actualize our soul. I want to show you how to do that, how to have a maximized potential to actualize your soul so you can live an actual magnificent life, not just a reality of survival. So this is my message on the soul today. I hope you enjoyed it. You might have to watch it a few times. Thank you. I love you. See you at the breakthrough experience.